Okay, let's start with a scenario. Imagine you're a detective. You arrive at a crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know a crime happened. Let's say a murder. You have a body, you have fingerprints, you have witnesses screaming at each other. But there's one thing you don't have.
The weapon?
The weapon. It's
Yeah.
just gone, vanished.
The classic missing gun problem.
Exactly. Now, does the fact that the gun is missing mean the murder didn't happen?
Of course not.
No. You build your case with everything else. You look at the circumstantial evidence, the witness testimony. And today, we are applying that exact same logic to, well, one of the biggest paradoxes in religious history.
We are.
We're looking at a source from author Joshua Gehly that does something, honestly, kind of audacious.
It is audacious. He's taking two of the most famous missing weapons in history,
Mm.
artifacts that millions believe in, but, nobody can actually touch, and he's asking if we can prove they existed using the exact same methods.
And when you say missing weapons, we're not talking about literal guns here.
No, not at all. In one corner, you've got the true cross, the actual wooden structure Jesus of Nazareth was crucified on.
Okay.
And in the other, you have the golden plates, the ancient source Joseph Smith claimed he translated into the Book of Mormon.
Talk about strange bedfellows.
Right.
I mean, you usually keep New Testament scholarship and Mormon history in completely different worlds. They don't. They don't talk to each other.
They really don't.
Mm-hmm.
But the mission of this deep dive isn't theology. We're not here to tell you who to pray to. We are looking at methodology,
The process.
the process. Gehly's argument is that if you take the rigorous secular historical method used to confirm the crucifixion, a standard accepted by atheists and believers alike, and you apply that same template to the golden plates, well, you get a very uncomfortable match,
Uncomfortable for who?
potentially for everyone. For skeptics, it challenges the whole "it was just a fraud" narrative. For believers, it forces a more grounded historical look at their own origin. It makes everyone play by the same rules.
Okay, so before we get into the specifics, we have to define our tools. We're using something called the minimal facts approach. For you, the listener, who maybe hasn't spent time in a seminary library, what is that?
Think of it as the common ground method. When historians look at a controversial event, they strip away everything that requires faith or, magic.
Right.
They ignore the stuff that only one biased person said. They look for the data points that everyone agrees on, even the enemies, even the skeptics.
So you're finding the little nuggets of truth that even the haters have to confirm.
Precisely. And once you have those undisputed nuggets, those minimal facts, you look for the best explanation that connects all of them. It's like connecting the dots. The picture that emerges is usually the most historically probable reality.
Okay, so let's establish the baseline. We have to look at the cross first. I think most people, even non-religious people, they just assume the crucifixion is a settled fact.
It is settled.
Like, obviously the Romans crucified Jesus, it's History 101.
It is. But here's the shocker in the research. It's not settled because of archaeology.
Oh.
The source points out that despite the Romans executing tens of thousands of people this way, do you know how many physical crosses we've found from that era?
I'm guessing not many, based on your tone.
0.
Wow.
None. And as for the victims, until 1968, we had not found a single skeleton in Palestine that showed clear evidence of crucifixion.
Wait, 1968, that's barely 50 years ago. So
Yeah.
for nearly 2,000 years, we had zero physical proof that this was even happening there.
Just texts. And yet, if you ask a historian, even a hardcore skeptic, they will tell you Jesus' crucifixion is indisputable.
Now, the source quotes some heavy hitters on this. These are not, pastors giving a sermon.
No, far from it.
Yeah.
These are what we call unsympathetic authorities. These are scholars with no skin in the game or who actively argue against Christianity. You've got John Dominic Crossan, who says the crucifixion is as sure as anything historical can ever be. You've got Bart Ehrman, a famous critic who doesn't believe in the resurrection, calling the crucifixion one of the most certain facts of history.
So how do they get to certainty without the wood? If I can't carbon date the cross, why are they so sure?
They rely on 5 pillars. These are the cornerstones of the historical method. And if we want to test the golden plates, we have to understand these 5 rules first.
Okay, lay them on me.
All right. Rule 1. Eyewitness testimony. Did someone claim to see it? Rule 2. Multiple independent sources. Is it just one guy in a basement, or did different people tell the same story separately?
Strength in numbers. Makes sense.
Right. Rule 3 is the juicy one. Unsympathetic sources. If your enemy says you did something, you probably did it.
The hostile witness.
Exactly. Why would they help your case unless they had to? Then Rule 4. Embarrassing admission. People lie to make themselves look good. If a story includes details that make the teller look stupid or weak or cowardly, it's highly likely to be true.
Because nobody invents a lie where they're the loser.
Bingo. And finally, Rule 5, early testimony. The closer a report is to the actual event, the less likely it is to be a legend that just grew over time.
Okay, so that's the rubric. That's the gold standard historians use to say, yes, the crucifixion happened, even though the wood is long gone.
So here's the pivot. The source material asks, what happens if we stop treating the golden plates like a fairy tale and start treating them like a historical problem?
What happens when we run them through those same 5 filters?
Let's do it.
Let's run the test. Minimal fact number 1 is the most basic. The Book of Mormon exists.
It's a physical object.
Right.
It's over 500 pages of complex narrative, geography, theology.
Yeah.
It didn't just poof into existence. It came from somewhere. That is our body at the crime scene.
But the murder weapon, the plates, is missing. So we move to fact number 2, sincere belief. Now, I know what the skeptic is probably screaming right now. Joseph Smith was a charismatic leader. He could convince people of anything.
And that's a fair pushback. But the source distinguishes the quality of the witnesses here. In the Bible, when the crucifixion happens, what do the disciples do?
They scatter, they run. Peter denies he even knows Jesus. He's so terrified.
Right. But with the golden plates, you have something totally different. You get this formal, almost legalistic approach to testimony. You have 2 distinct groups, the 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses.
And that distinction is crucial, isn't it? Because they experience the artifact in totally different ways.
It is vital. The 3 witnesses, Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, Martin Harris, their experience was visionary. They claimed an angel appeared, showed them the plates.
So a skeptic can just write that off. Shared hallucination, hypnotic suggestion.
You're getting sleepy, you see the gold.
Exactly. But then you have the 8 witnesses. No angels, no bright lights, no voice of God. Just broad daylight, a log fence, and a heavy object.
They touched it.
They touched it. They turned the pages. They hefted it.
Hefted, that's such a great word. It implies real weight. About 60 pounds, according to estimates. You don't hallucinate a 60-pound back strain. This physicality is what makes the historical case so sticky.
And the source has these incredible details about the intensity of their testimonies. There's a story about Martin Harris, the drunk test.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like a bad sitcom plot, but it's historically recorded.
It is. A group of local guys in Palmyra were skeptical. They thought Martin Harris was just, a gullible old man parroting Joseph Smith. So they decided to get him liquored up.
In vino veritas.
They figured if they got him drunk, he'd slip up and admit it was all a scam. But even under the influence, Harris didn't crack. He supposedly slammed his hand on the table and said, "Gentlemen, what I have said is true. My belief is swallowed up in knowledge."
That is profound. My belief is swallowed up in knowledge.
And he was specific in other interviews, too, right? It wasn't some vague feeling.
No, not at all.
He was anatomically specific. In a later interview, he literally points to his eyes, his ears, and his hands. He says, "I saw with these eyes, I heard with these ears, and with these hands, I handled the plates." He was daring people to call him a liar.
And David Whitmer was the same way. There's that quote where someone asks if he'd been deceived, maybe by a mental impression.
And he just snaps.
He snaps back, "No, sir, I was not deceived. I saw with these eyes and I heard with these ears." You can just hear the frustration in the text.
Decades of it. These men spent their whole lives being told they were crazy or liars, but they never budged on the sensory details.
And this hits the early testimony rule, too. This wasn't a legend that popped up 50 years later.
No. Oliver Cowdery wrote a letter in November of 1829 that's just months after the translation finished. He describes a clear, open, beautiful day. The narrative was set in concrete immediately.
Okay, so we have friends of Joseph Smith saying they saw it, but I'll play the cynic again. Of course they backed him up. They were his inner circle. On the con, this is where we need your favorite rule: unsympathetic sources.
This is where the case gets surprisingly strong. The source material points to several instances where enemies inadvertently locked in the facts. Take the Painesville Telegraph.
That was a newspaper, right?
A very critical one. They hated the early Mormon movement. But in 1830, they reported on Cowdery's claims. They were mocking him, calling it a pretense. But by reporting it, they confirmed that Cowdery was claiming to see angels and translate plates at that exact time.
So they accidentally proved the timeline wasn't invented later.
Exactly. And then you have the neighbors, small towns talk.
For sure.
And usually, the neighbors know if you're faking it. Enter Lorenzo Saunders. He was a neighbor of the Smiths. Not a fan.
Oh.
Total cynic. Thought they were just lazy treasure diggers.
Okay.
But years later, in an interview, Saunders confirmed the exact location of the dig. He mentioned the west side of the hill, the timing. He corroborated the crime scene.
And he went further. Right. He corroborated the hole in the hill. This is minimal fact number 3.
The empty box.
Right.
It wasn't just Joseph and the witnesses. Multiple people, including skeptics, knew there was a stone box on a hill near Palmyra. Joseph described it as stones held together with cement, bottom stones laid crossways. Saunders, the guy who disliked the Smiths, knew exactly where that spot was.
That's fascinating. So you have a hole in the ground that everyone agrees is there, even the guy who thinks the whole thing is nonsense. But let's get to the psychology, the embarrassing admission. This is the one that really stuck with me.
It's powerful.
Because we have this image of the 3 witnesses as these holy, loyal saints. But that's not what happened, is it?
Not at all. And this is maybe the strongest argument for authenticity. By 1847, every single one of the witnesses was either dead, excommunicated, or estranged from the church.
That is a massive falling out. That's a 100% turnover rate.
It was ugly. Joseph Smith had a falling out with almost all of them. They were kicked out, ridiculed in church papers, threatened, their reputations are ruined. Now pause. Think like a detective. If the golden plates were a trop, if you and I made them in my garage, and then I kick you out of our club, what do?
I burn you down. I go straight to the newspapers and say, it was a fake. Here's how he did it. Joseph is a fraud.
Exactly. You destroy your enemy with the truth. But they didn't. There's this incredible account from Thomas B. Marsh, another excommunicated leader. He meets up with David Whitmer and Oliver Cowdery, who were also excommunicated. They're all out in the cold.
Right.
And Marsh asks them, basically, why haven't you spilled the beans? Just admit it was a hustle.
And they couldn't.
They couldn't. Marsh asked Whitmer if he really saw the angel. And Whitmer, this man who feels totally betrayed by Joseph Smith, he replies, as sure as there is a God in heaven, he saw the angel.
They separated the man from the artifact.
That's the key. They might have hated what Joseph had become or how he treated them, but they could not deny the physical reality of what they saw and handled. The source argues this is the ultimate embarrassing admission. They protected a truth that personally cost them everything.
That is just stubborn. And psychologically, that's really hard to explain away.
It is. If it's a conspiracy, the co-conspirators turn on each other when the heat gets turned up or when the money runs out. And these men died poor.
So we have witnesses, we have enemies confirming the timeline, the hole in the hill, and the psychological refusal to recant. Now let's talk about the object itself. Minimal fact number 4. Joseph had something.
He definitely had something. The hallucination theory just falls apart here because too many people interacted with a physical object. The source lists descriptions from 21 different people.
And the specs are consistent. It's not like one guy says it was red and another says blue.
Remarkably consistent. But 7 by 8 inches, roughly 6 inches thick, appearance of gold. And the binding, this is great detail, 3 rings shaped like a reverse D.
That's very specific. Why does the reverse D shape matter?
Because if you just drill round holes in plates and put a ring through them, the plates won't lay flat. The ring gets in the way. The D shape lets the flat side rest against the spine, so the stack is stable. It's a mechanical detail that suggests function, not just a prop.
And the weight. We keep coming back to the weight.
60 pounds of gold is small, but it is dense. If Joseph was faking this, he had to carry a 60-pound prop around for years, running through the woods, hiding it, lifting it.
So if you're a skeptic, you have to explain what that object was. If it wasn't ancient gold plates, what was it? The source brings up the tin plates theory. This is the main counter-argument, isn't it?
It is. It's the leading naturalistic explanation from a researcher named Dan Vogel. The theory is that Joseph Smith was a skilled metalworker on the side.
Which we have no record of.
Which we have no record of, by the way. And he forged a set of plates out of tin scraps to fool everyone.
Does tin even weigh enough?
Roughly. It gets you in the ballpark of the weight. But the source argues this theory fails the best explanation test. First, it's what scholars call ad hoc.
Meaning it's made up just to plug a hole?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no record of Joseph buying tin, working with tin. Nobody saw tin scraps. It's a pure guess. Second, the witnesses consistently said gold or appearance of gold. Tin is silver gray.
And then there's the angel problem.
The angel problem. The convenient thing about the golden plate story is that the angel Moroni takes them back at the end. Convenient for Joseph, frustrating for archaeologists. But if they were tin plates, why did the angel have to take them?
Joseph could have just melted them
Or
down.
buried them. thrown them in a lake. The tin theory also struggles with people like Josiah Stoll, a financial backer. This was a guy putting actual money into Joseph's ventures.
Right.
He testified in court, under oath, that he saw a corner of the artifact. He described it as a stone of a greenish cast.
Wait, greenish, not gold.
That's a debated detail. Some think he saw the plates. Others think he saw the interpreters or spectacles found with them. But the point the source makes is about risk. How does a farm boy with tin roofing dupe a financial backer, his own wife, his parents, and 21 other people into believing this, and do it so well that nobody ever finds the scraps?
It's a conspiracy that requires everyone to be either incredibly dumb or incredibly complicit.
And again, given the outcome, excommunication, poverty, persecution, it's hard to see why they'd be complicit. Which brings us back to the synthesis, the inference to the best explanation.
Let's tie it all together. We started with the cross. We accept the crucifixion because of manuscripts, eyewitnesses, and enemy attestation.
And the source argues that the evidence for the golden plates meets or even exceeds that same standard. We have immediate eyewitnesses, multiple independent groups, enemies confirming the timeline, the embarrassing admission of the excommunicated witnesses.
So the verdict from the source is the explanation that requires the least amount of twisting of the evidence is that Joseph Smith actually had the plates.
It's the simplest path through the data points. But, and this is a big but, the source admits this conclusion requires two prerequisites.
The price of admission.
Exactly. To accept the plates as real, you have to assume two things. One, God exists, and two, resurrection is possible.
Which, if you're a Christian, you already believe.
Exactly. If you already accept that Jesus walked out of a tomb, a physical impossibility, then an angel delivering gold plates isn't some universe-breaking event. It fits the worldview. If you're a materialist atheist, then any explanation, even a flimsy tin plate theory, is better than it was an angel.
It really challenges how we define history. We think of it as just facts, but it's more like facts plus worldview.
Always. But the minimal facts approach is useful because it forces you to look at the data points that don't fit your narrative. If you think Joseph was a con man, you have to explain why the people he cheated refused to expose him. That's a jagged edge on the puzzle piece that doesn't fit the fraud picture nicely.
And that's the thought I want to leave you, the listener, with. The explanatory power. If it was a fake, why take the secret to the grave? You have men who lost their standing, their friends, their homes. A simple "it was a prop" could have saved them so much trouble.
It connects right back to the start. The lack of a physical wooden cross doesn't disprove the crucifixion. And the argument here is that the lack of physical plates today doesn't disprove the Book of Mormon. In fact, the trail of historical breadcrumbs, the broken lives, the sworn affidavits, the hostile reports, it all creates a shape.
A specific shape.
A shape that looks a lot like reality.
Whether you believe in the theology or not, you have to respect the mystery of the history. It's a reminder that sometimes the things we can't touch are the ones that leave the deepest impact.
Well said.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.